Welcome to the 2026 U.S. Congressional District 23 Democratic Forum here in Alpine, Texas. I'm your moderator, former Alpine City Council member, Reagan Stone. Starting with highlighting this region beyond the politics, I love the outdoors in this beautiful Big Bend of Texas. If you didn't already know, Texas has mountains well over a mile high with fir and ponderosa pine forests. In fact, we're only about a mile or an hour away from some of the last remaining aspen groves in the state. That's a natural wealth advertisement for the area, but from small town baseball games and spirit to a lively culture, history to learn from, and festivals held here around the calendar year in Alpine, Fort Davis, and Marfa, please consider visiting Far West Texas on your next family holiday. I'd also love to mention and thank the campus and leadership of Sul Ross State University for hosting us. The Texas Democratic Party believes in lifting up and uniting those that have historically been forgotten. And with that, what then a better place to showcase this in real time than at a historical Hispanic majority university? If you're from Alpine or just the surrounding area, please give us a warm round of applause and let us know all the people that are out there visiting around. Thank you all for being here. Anyone travel beyond, of course, just Alpine, Fort Davis, and Marfa? Where are y'all from? We have some folks here. Fort Stockton. We got some folks from San Antonio. Marathon. Awesome. Well, thank you all for being here. Fantastic. Thanks for driving in, and thank you to our audience across the state listening in. Last but very much not least, thank you to the Congressional 23 candidates. Round of applause for Gretel, Bruce Santos, and Katie for being here. Candidates, you know the rules. We're going to have 2 minutes per question. The rotation will switch throughout the afternoon, and you, again, have 2 minutes each. Please be respectful of our time. I definitely know by the end of this, we're all going to want a little cool off, maybe a beer, Topo Chico over at the happy hour. So let's start off by just getting to know our candidates. Who are you? Why are you running for Congress, and what sets you apart on this stage? Gretel, please start us off.
Thank you so much, and thank you all for being with us, however you are here. My name is Gretel Enck. I live in Marfa, and I'm one of our candidates for Texas 23 on the Democratic ticket. After 25 years of public service with the federal government, I was pushed into early retirement last spring because of the DOGE cuts. And I definitely don't feel like I'm done serving my communities or my country. And I'm definitely not standing up for my core values of courage, integrity, and service. And so I'm running, first of all, for the common good. And that means affordability, as so many of us are concerned about right now, and policies that help regular working folks here in America, elders, kids, the most vulnerable of us. And that also means holding billionaires and large corporations accountable and making them pay their fair share. And I'm hoping we'll get into some of the details about that, because income inequality in our country is a choice, and I want to make different choices. I am also running for common ground and the things that we have in common. I take this idea of neighbors very seriously. So I want to listen to folks and find out where we do have commonalities that we can build on. And mostly, and this gets more dire every week, I am running to save our democracy, right? This administration is violating our Constitution, undermining our national security, wrecking our economy. And as we're bombarded with more every week, they're killing our neighbors. And so because the checks and balances are failing, I want to be one of the people to stand up and say, enough, we're not going to do this anymore. We're going to take back our democracy. And so that sounds like a lot, right? But I have been standing up for people my whole life, whether it's in the Peace Corps, working with orphaned kids to get the resources they need, or as many of you know, the Blackwell School in Marfa, where I worked for nearly 10 years to turn that into the Blackwell School National Historic Site. So I thank you for your time. I am here with a fierce love to take back our country. Thank you.
My name is Bruce Richardson. I'm a seventh generation Texan, born in Fort Worth and grew up in Denton. Lived in the district for about 10 years, where I served in the Census Bureau in the 2020 census, talking to people I didn't know in places I didn't know existed. Like all of us here, well, I see from the hair color that many of us do remember the Cold War. And listening to Donald Trump, it's starting to sound familiar. I'm fighting to defend our democracy and to restore affordability in the face of price gouging by corporations and other bad actors. I'm an accountant by trade. I can use these skills to fight for you, to reduce overcharging, and to defend our democracy. Thanks very much.
All righty, Santos.
My name is Santos Limon, and I want to thank everybody that for being here. I want to thank the committee, the candidates for getting involved. This is really tough, and I commend you and I congratulate you for stepping up and helping us out here on the 23rd. I believe in it. I've been living in Congressional District 2023 for over 50 years. My father was born in Mexico, but my grandfather was born in Marathon. My great-grandfather, my grandfather's father, was also born in Texas. Back then, they were part of building the railroad, Southern Pacific. As a civil engineer, us civil engineers were very squared. We rely on math, on science. And for me to believe in destiny was a little hard until I started digging more into my family genealogy. And I found out that my grandfather was born in Marathon, Texas. My great-grandfather was also born in Texas. Now, when I say about destiny is, I'm a civil engineer. I've designed high-speed rail, light rail, and commuter rail in Utah, Phoenix, Texas, up in Dallas. I've been involved in numerous feasibility studies having to do with rail infrastructure here. I'm now heavily concentrated in Mexico. Now Mexico has the fastest speed train in this entire continent. We have also been working up in Europe with high-speed rail, commuter rail, and light rail. I'm also involved in the energy sector, and I'm also a farmer. I import pecans from Fabian, Texas, from Mexico, Chihuahua, into Fabian, Texas. And I import other minerals into Piedras Negras, Coahuila, into the Eagle Pass area. Again, I've been here 50 plus years. I used to work for Southern Pacific. That's destiny. I had no idea that my grandparents were involved in rail, building this railroad track. My home back in 2006 and 8 was Alpine, Texas. San Antonio was my district. So San Antonio from El Paso, Texas, back then it was Southern Pacific. I came through here. I know a lot of families here in Alpine. I know about the issues across the south part of the railroad. Till this day, they still talk about it. They're having water problems on the other side of the railroad tracks. They're having all these difficulties still. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Katie Padilla Stout, and I am one of the candidates running for Texas 23. I am a born and bred Texan. I have been here since I was born. I've lived in San Antonio, grew up there. I went to college in Austin, and then I began teaching. So I was a public school teacher for almost a decade. I taught kindergarten, which was my favorite. I did kindergarten, we did ESL. I also did second grade, fourth grade, and gifted and talented. So very well versed in education. That's really, really important to me. Somewhere in between there, I went to law school, passed the bar exam, and decided to pivot my practice to representing children and families who are going through the foster care system. So that's something that's really near and dear to my heart in regards to helping people who need help, helping the most vulnerable in our community. That's something that I've been doing for a long time, whether that's been working in Title I schools or if it's been working with my clients. I think one of the things that has set me apart in my career in both instances has been my availability to be with people and to talk to people. And I was that teacher that would give parents my cell phone, give clients my cell phone. I'm very, very accessible. My father grew up in rural Texas, so I know out here sometimes when we feel like either somebody has to be urban or they have to be rural. I had the unique experience of growing up in both settings. So my dad owned a ranch down there. He was a rancher for a good while. He's also an attorney. He grew up as a migrant farm worker, and all of my grandparents were migrant farm workers. And so it was through education that we were able to get to where we are, to be able to move up into the middle class, and to see that systemically being closed down for so many people and so many children is really heartbreaking. So we're here about affordability, we're here to help people, and we're here to stop what's happening in Washington. Thank you so much.
All of you candidates, thank you again for being here in Alpine today. My next question surrounds immigration and the border. I'll begin with a shout out to our friends in the region's investigative newsroom. The Big Bend Sentinel recently reported that in Presidio County, right next door, specifically Candelaria, a remote Texas hamlet on the Rio Grande River, longtime residents were recently snatched by Border Patrol at their homes. No warrant, guns drawn. In my opinion, this was a kidnapping. It was done with the help of the U.S. Army soldiers that are stationed in our region. Right now, there are over 1,000 troops stationed in and around Big Bend National Park with combat tanks dotting up and down River Road. Still, back to these residents, no criminal records. The woman arrested and ultimately led to a detention center had to presumably abandon her 15-year-old son, alone in a town of a dozen or so, over an hour from the nearest school, gas station, or grocery store. My question to y'all: what types of programs should we as American citizens provide undocumented people so that they are not illegally present or inhumanely detained? And two, what types of changes overall would you push for surrounding national immigration policy? 2 minutes each. Bruce, you're up first.
I have a special perspective on this because I lived abroad for a number of years, and actually from time to time in China, my visa expired, so I was technically an illegal alien myself. I lived in China, as I said, off and on for 20 years. If I had been a Chinese living in America, I would be a citizen by now, but there was no legal path even to permanent residency for a foreign worker, no matter what your skill level or how good a boy you've been. When I see what's happening here, though, it is night and day. I cannot imagine ICE agents dressed for combat going after people in their homes. This is ridiculous. We have always had workplace raids, but you just catch people and say, okay, you're under arrest, you're going home. There was no need to be military or to violate human and civil rights. That said, we need a way to bring people in regardless of how they got here and at least give them some sort of permanent residency where they can live and breathe and have their being and raise the families that they've already started here.
Very good. Santos?
Having lived in the district for over 50 years, I was so close to becoming a Border Patrol agent back in 1993. And I now have over 14 cousins, family members that are part of Border Patrol. Some of them have become CIA agents, FBI agents, but they've came up the ranks. Talking to several of those family members, the majority of them are disgusted at what they're seeing. You'll be surprised that some of them don't agree on the tactics right now. Some of them are against it. And that's not just family members, but other Border Patrol agents, federal agents that are out there committing this acts. I've been condemning the acts up in Minnesota, the atrocities that they've been doing up in Seattle, all over our country. This is not who we are. The Constitution protects everybody. It protects us citizens, residents, especially illegal immigrants. It's part of the Constitution. That's who we are. That's how we were built. That's how we are now one of the greatest nations, still one of the greatest nations in the face of this world. And it's because of that Constitution that we have to protect and fight. We're now seeing our Constitution stepped on by these federal agents and then by all these federal agencies that are out there making these atrocities, is what I called. There's no need to arrest citizens. We were told a year ago, and we were told in 2016 that they were going to go after the bad hombres, the rapists, all of them. There's no need. What's going on? A citizen, U.S. citizen, was murdered up in Minnesota. They're arresting residents, legal residents. They're being arrested. There's no need for that. It's called the Constitution of Independence that protects each human being that's inside this country. Everyone that within these boundaries are protected under the Constitution. And we need people strong enough that can stand up in DC and really uphold and hold people accountable for violating our Constitution of America.
Katie.
This is a very difficult subject that our country has grappled with since its inception. I believe that now what is happening here is far beyond the realm of anything the Constitution would have envisioned for our country. I think number one duty of military, police, border patrol, any kind of law enforcement is to protect the people, right? Is to be here for the people. We pay their tax dollars, we pay their salaries. They are here to protect us. I think the hard part about this is that we are now seeing that the lines are moving further and further so much quickly to where we no longer know where our constitutional rights start and where they end, right? We have always been a country that's been able to protest. We've always been a country that's been able to stand up for what we believe. We've always been a country that's been able to say what we want, where we want in public spaces. I think all of that is being attacked. I think that it is very unfortunate that not only are we targeting adults, but now we're targeting children. We had a 5-year-old little girl who was a U.S. citizen who was detained and deported. That is absolutely unacceptable. We've had ICE agents go in and attack children that were attending high school. And I have a high schooler, he's here right now. And he asked me when this whole thing started, you know, Mom, what do I do, right? You're a lawyer, what do I do if they come and they're here and they want to take me? And as a mother, that's a really hard question to have with your child because of the color of their skin, that you know that they're at a higher risk for that. And so I think it's something that needs to be addressed. It needs to be addressed very quickly. It may have started with, oh, we're going to get only the people who are committing the worst crimes. And we're seeing that that is moving faster and faster back to where it's going to be everybody. They may start with a certain demographic, but it will move to everyone as we are seeing really quickly. And so I think everyone in this room, especially all of the candidates that are here, are really committed to changing that as quickly as possible.
Incredible.
Thank you. So we know immigration is a very complicated, complex issue. That is no excuse to not take some action as quickly as we can. And like a lot of things we're going to talk about today, people are working on this and we do have answers. It just takes political will. And so I come to this over the summer and into the fall. I was going to immigration court in El Paso through a program the American Bar Association set up where volunteers could go and take notes on what was going on in the courtroom and then provide the data. And it was so depressing, not because the violence that we see on social media, but the unpredictability of who was going to be taken. And it often did not make sense. And so what I would suggest is that Veronica Escobar has introduced a bill very similar to what was in Congress in 2023 that Trump made the Republicans back away from. It's a bipartisan compromise bill. It's not perfect, but let's enact that right now. It offers both increasing resources to Border Patrol to do the work on the border that we need and want, specifically cross-border trade and commerce. That is a huge economic driver in this district and for America. So we need them to do that. But then pull ICE out of the cities. I have no problem saying I would abolish ICE. There is immigration and custom enforcement work that needs to be done, but this agency has proven that that's not what they're about. So get them out of there. This bill that I'm talking about offers pathways to citizenships. It beefs up resources that courts have to deal with the backlog, which is complicated. And I would offer, I would fast track citizenship for DACA people, as well as some of these other ideas about people who have been here for X amount of time. And they've proven they're not criminals. Let's give them permanent status.
The audience to please hold your applause as you're able. Thank you. Moving to another topic, definitely a top of the ticket topic. The question of, is the rent too damn high? And for my non-millennials,
Love that guy.
for my non-millennials, for Jeannie, I'm speaking of the ever-rising cost of living and Trump's least favorite word, affordability. Hint, y'all, one way to go about answering this could be, what the heck would you do to stabilize economic policy? From tariffs that are increasing our housing and food prices to workforce instability that's leaving a construction and service industry without hands on deck, again, due to ICE raids. How do you think, candidates, as a potential member of Congress, you can best affect policy on the prices of stuff and services that Americans pay for? It's as simple as that. Santos, you're up next.
As an international businessman and entrepreneur here in the US and other parts of the world, I've seen how the tax system has a lot to do with how much we pay, whether eggs, milk, everything that we do out there. Anything that we think that we're gonna go buy has now an increase, and we're feeling it in our pockets. I am proposing, and I've shared this with other folks, elected officials, that we need to reform the IRS system completely, reform it, completely reform. Taxing the wealthy, yes, we need to reform the tax system. Our IRS system it's in dire need of reform. We cannot be pushing our constituents all over the country to keep paying high prices on eggs, high prices on milk, high prices, even rent, mortgage. I'm against tariffs, mainly because I think tariffs are going to drive us into bigger problems, not just right now, what we're seeing right now, but in the future. What I would do as your congressman-elect, I would invest in farming. Unfortunately, we now have to think back and go back in time, how we started our country over 200 years ago. We have to invest in farmers. We have to invest in ranchers. We have to be the US that we once were. Entrepreneurs, manufacturing, we have to bring back manufacturing. Just across the border, 70% of our manufacturing are now south of the border, and they keep crossing the border, affecting all of our union jobs here in America and affecting all of our high-paying jobs here in America. There's no such thing. The myth of that unions were crippling our country, our manufacturing, that is not true. That is a big lie.
Katie?
I think affordability was definitely one of the reasons or one of the issues that pushed me into this race. As a mom with 4 children, we go through a lot of groceries. My husband and I are both attorneys. We work in town. We have steady jobs. And it was hard to keep making those trips and just see that increase and increase and increase. And I kept asking myself, how is everyone else doing this, right? How are all of these people with children able to feed them? And then on top of that, we had the SNAP benefits that were critical for so many in our community. And that forced me to start a food drive within our local neighborhood. And with that pantry typically saw about 8 families a weekend. And so they would only open up on the weekends. They had about 8 people come. They said that weekend before we did the food drive, they had 250 families. So there were a lot of families within our community, people that we may not even know, that really rely on those resources. And so many Americans right now are just one paycheck away from not being able to pay their bills or from being in a position to where they would no longer be able to afford their lifestyle. I'm looking at my 4 children and thinking, are they going to be able to afford a home? I don't know, because we bought our home several years ago and even the prices now are so much higher. We have to come in and have some sort of reform for that. I believe in student loan reform. I think we need to lower the interest rates on that to allow families to do that. I think we need to have paid parental leave to increase our workforce. I believe we need to have universal pre-K to start with educating our young ones and giving our families a real cost-effective solution to the astronomical rate of childcare in this country. Your childcare costs more than a mortgage. And the solution should not be that you have to rely on grandparents or aunts or uncles or strangers to watch your children. You should be able to put your children in quality care. That's what you choose to do, and have it not break the bank. This is something that is connecting for all of us. You know, raising informed, kind, empathetic citizens is important for everyone. So we need to address those things. Thank you.
Thank you. So being somebody who worked for the federal government, I'm very concerned about what's happened to all of our federal agencies. Restoring funding, specifically, I'll give you specific examples. HUD, Housing and Urban Development, with block grants for things that communities need, and also supporting construction development programs is very important. And so I would work to restore funding there and beef it up. Higher minimum wage right off the bat, strengthening unions, all the things for kids. Not only, I would immediately look for pre-K, universal pre-K, and keeping an eye on what's going on in New Mexico with universal childcare, which they've implemented statewide. And are there lessons learned that the federal government can take? Because yeah, we should absolutely be moving toward universal childcare. So I should go back and say, it's about prices, and it's also about how do we put more money in people's wallets. Tariffs, not only the tariffs themselves, but talking to some economic development people in El Paso, it's the instability of the tariffs. They go up, they go down. Nobody can plan, right? We've got a new tariff today on European countries. That's affecting our, not only the direct impact on prices, but the instability and people not making investments on things that could benefit manufacturing. So that's a lot on the price side. On the money in our pockets, universal health care. Everybody is concerned about healthcare, whether it's cuts to ACA, subsidies, Medicaid, et cetera. Let's solve it. Let's shore those up. Let's restore what's been lost, right? But let's move forward toward a Medicare for all. Again, people know how to do this. People in Washington are writing those bills, and I will get on board with that. Saving Social Security, shoring up Social Security for the next 75 years with a bill that's already in place. There's so much we can do on those fronts too. Thank you.
Bruce.
Step number one is repealing the big bad bill. But more importantly, we have an unstable tariff regime because the executive has claimed power that belongs to Congress. We have to fight that in any way we can in the courts and in public opinion. On pricing, much of our pricing has been driven by private equity moving into spaces where they were not there 20 years ago, like housing and other things that everybody has to buy. I'm an accountant. I was also a financial analyst. I'm used to interviewing executives, and I will hold hearings and ask them very politely to explain in their own words why they are price gouging us. In other aspects, again, of course, we need Medicare for all to give families the security against unexpected events in their lives. And I will vote to refund Social Security by raising the FICA cap from $184,000 to $1 million. Thank you.
Awesome.
Very good. Next, I'd like to take a moment to thank our rural healthcare workers. Do we have any physician assistants, nurses, researchers, or doctors, or any retired folks in here today? So with that said, I live about a mile away from a rural hospital. And sadly, I see it as my primary healthcare facility. This is because I don't have health insurance, I can't afford it, and I'm not alone. It's well known that 1 in 5 Texans don't have affordable access to healthcare. Still, even when they do, it's cut by administrative costs that go to for-profit insurance companies bargaining on my livelihood and the folks that I live with. Rural Texans are especially at risk. Right now, Alpine could lose an ambulance service, and the for-profit health hospital airlifts most emergencies. That can even be like a broken arm. Now, despite all this, I call myself lucky. I don't have a complication right now. I have a little savings if there was a small emergency. And a last point to visit, I'm not a person who can become pregnant. Rural hospitals also have some of the worst stats in infant and maternal mortality death rates among developed countries around the world. So in ending my charged rant here, are we, the richest country in the world, not spending enough on healthcare, or is the business and corporate mentality taking advantage of our well-being? So on healthcare, women's personal freedoms, and the decision between universal basic coverage or fixing the private insurance market, any ideas to share, and what do we do? Katie, you're up next.
Thank you. Healthcare is a right. It is something that all people should be entitled to. I fully believe that we should extend Medicare for all. Short of that, I think we need to have more federally funded access to healthcare, such as either if we have rural hospitals or rural clinics, that would be helpful. I spoke earlier about how my father lives in a rural area. This past year, we had several scary medical instances, and one of them was that he lives by himself. He doesn't necessarily go to the doctor when he's supposed to go to the doctor. And by the time he went to the office, one of our staff members noticed that he just didn't look well. And so he was able to go to the rural hospital, and he had a severe case of sepsis. So he spent multiple weeks in that hospital. I sat right there by him, and I don't know what would have happened if we wouldn't have had access to that hospital. We're not just talking about care, about preventative care. We're talking about people possibly dying because we refuse to make that a priority, and that's not okay for any American. Every American should have access to healthcare. Everyone should be able to have access to extend those life-saving measures that they need, and they need the technology and the equipment and the staff to be able to do that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. There's a few different issues. Being in a rural area, I've talked to a lot of people in Marfa and Presidio and Fort Davis about the fear of losing the limited resources that we have, right? And so the cuts to Medicaid, which a lot of people rely on, are going to impact our local resources, even if you have good insurance, like I do as a federal retiree, because if these resources aren't getting the patients that they need, because these patients no longer have financial resources to do it through Medicaid, those resources are going to go away for all of us. And now you go to an urban area, and it's different right now. In one of my multiple stays in San Antonio recently on the campaign, I checked into my hotel. The man shared his experience going on right now. He has cirrhosis of the liver, and he's waiting to get Social Security disability benefits, and that's a challenge right now. But more immediately, his ACA cost was going to go up double, and he couldn't afford that. So he went with a cheaper plan. This is the Affordable Care Act tax credits, and he's not really sure if all the care that he's going to need with his very serious condition is going to be covered under this other plan. So there's so much involved in fixing this system. And that's why I say I want to move to Medicare for all, because with any luck, if everybody has care, everybody will use it, and those resources then exist for everybody. I can't tell you the number of people I've known in Marfa, people with means, who, because they're aging, move to a city. And yet there's so many people that would prefer to age in their homes. And if we can have much more robust visiting health nurses, both for babies and elders and everybody who needs it, like just a culture of care is what we need. So lots going on. Thank you.
Bruce.
Shortcomings of our healthcare system are all the result of policy choices which favor the rich over us in this room. We need to have Medicare available for all. That's a base. We also need to have subsidies for lower income families or families with multiple children who couldn't afford a market-based premium. In West Texas, as we all know, we're in a healthcare desert regardless of how much money you have. I will sponsor legislation to set up clinics where we have accessible healthcare, accessible as in distance from your home and accessible as in open when you can go there. Working families don't have the 9 to 5 privileges that the rest of us have. I spoke actually to one lady here in Alpine, one of your supporters, who said, I'm going to move in 5 years because I don't have the facilities here to care for me. Lastly, let's talk about a woman's right to choose. However you feel about abortion, do we really need state legislators with no clinical background saying what happens when a woman of childbearing age walks into an ER?
No.
Thanks.
Santos.
Last time I got so involved, mainly in the Congressional District here, because I consider it my home. And I had an interview by some reporter and asked me, Mr. Limon, what will you do with healthcare? And I said, even if we have the greatest health insurance coverage in the world, we don't have nowhere to go. So we need to invest in infrastructure tremendously, all these rural communities. Recently, the incumbent voted against the Affordable Care Act. The incumbent voted against. So how can a representative right now ignore what we're going through in his own congressional district? All of us in here right now, we agreed that we're in dire need of infrastructure, medical infrastructure. We need funding. We need much better funding. We need to be more attractive to the doctors that don't want to come down here. That's one of the issues that's been hurting us here, especially here in Alpine, Texas. We need to find better staff or pay staff that are willing to be honest and not defraud the system. That was what happened here, I think last year. We need to protect the integrity of the infrastructure that we have here. We need to involve the community more, community leaders. We need to get them involved more in this health decisions that we need to make up in Congress. That congressman up there, is a joke. People are losing their lives, and he keeps defunding every single program that we dire need in these communities. More funding. We need more funding.
Thank you all very much. We're getting down to about the last 15 minutes. This is my last prepared question. It is equally, in a sense, large, but perhaps more philosophical and historical, surrounding the sense of our nation's identity. First, I'm asking y'all, audience, does anyone miss the 90s? Anybody? We got one up here. Thank you. I ask because I have a favorite movie, and this is all going to make sense, I hope, in a minute. It's called Midnight in Paris, starring Rachel McAdams and Texan Owen Wilson. Characters, they somewhat magically are taken back to a different time period, and in the decades that they visit, they ponder if those times are better than the current period that they live in then. But my point being to why I'm missing the 90s, I don't remember division like today, nor anti-government trust or authoritarianism making a comeback. And while I understand there have been equally, if not more charged periods in American history, I miss the 90s because people nor our leaders got away with siding with policies formed in KKK meeting halls, nor was money at the height of its influence. I could keep going. But I also have a central belief that keeps me from depression or constant fear. It's amor fati, Latin for love thy fate. Y'all, and the audience included, have a big mark to play this year and beyond for a government that serves all of us. And with Greek proverbs being thrown around here, we're going to have to accept difficult times as points and moments to truly live our values in order to create opportunity for our future and the generations to come. So as we referenced earlier, there have been hard times before. Wars, dictators, injustices, so forth, as, truly impermanent as the Texas weather. These hardships have always passed, and so will our current moment. So my final question for y'all, and really the whole audience, but I'll talk to all y'all at the happy hour, is candidates, logistically, what will you do with the time that you have right now running for high office, engaging with voters, sharing what your message is, living what type of life you're living? And two, spiritually, how will you inspire and bring us back some hope? Gretel?
Awesome. Okay. Thank you. I do have hope, but I want to start by telling you what I've been, last night I was working hard on my posters. I'm going to the MLK March on Monday in San Antonio. And as eloquent and wonderful as Dr. King was, I've actually chosen a poem by Langston Hughes, which means a lot to me right now. And it is talking about America never was America to me. So if you want to go back to some golden age, you talk to a Black person or a brown person or a woman or a member of the LGBT community about how great it was back then. I don't want to go back anywhere. And what Langston Hughes says is America was never America to me, but America will be. We've got the foundational documents. We've got the love in our hearts and the fierce determination to say this is not who we are. So if you think I'm a little impassioned today, it is because I have hope. It is because I've seen what happens when we work together, right? We can do this. And I will take all of the conversations that I've had about hopes and fears and concerns, and I will channel that into my fierce love to get us where we need to go. I will work hard to earn your vote, but I will work even harder, work stronger, work smarter, work longer, and with more fierce love to take our country back. I have been, it's a really weird thing to get the boot from your employer after 20 some years just because of Doge cuts. But I'm really glad it happened because this is giving me so much purpose and I want to invite you along with me. Thank you.
In 1981, Republicans said, hey, let's let corporations run America for a while. In 1993, Democrats said, oh, we can do the same thing. When Republicans did it, we called it Reaganomics. When we did it, we called it neoliberalism. Whatever you call it, corporate greed has hollowed out the middle class and warped American society. We cannot go back to what we had. But just as the Gilded Age led to the Great Depression and then finally the New Deal, I believe we are on the cusp of reaching a society where everybody will be valued and cared for and be rewarded for the stake that they have. Let's remember in the 60s and 70s, I see some gray hair here, American society went through massive changes and deep social strife. But we completed the interstate highway system, we put a man on the moon, and we stayed together. We can do this again. Specifically, fight as hard as we can in the courts, and do not obey in advance when you see authoritarians trying to take your power. Thanks.
Santos.
My grandfather told me once that actions spoke louder than words. Our congressional district has been the poorest congressional district, not just in Texas, but in our nation for over 50 years. Our congressional district is the least educated district in not just Texas, but the entire nation for over 50 years. It hasn't mattered, nothing has changed. We keep electing candidates and we keep electing people up there in office that come to these communities and sweet talk to us. They're the greatest speakers out there and they mesmerize us and they make us go out there and vote for them. I blame Democrats and blame Republicans. Why is it that our congressional district still has 8 of the poorest counties, not just in Texas, but in the nation? Why is it that we're the least educated? Our unemployment is by far one of the highest unemployment. Why? We need leadership. I have been fighting for over 3 years. We now have a track record. My track record includes the following. We've helped and saved over 800 veterans throughout the district. Our Veteran Coalition Director, Mario Perales, is here with an announcement of jobs. We have a census that's coming. It needs over 300 not volunteers, but paid staff. If you need anything, more information, he's right there. He's right behind. They're looking for 300 people in this area alone. If you need a job temporarily, that's the guy to go right now. In the central part of the district, we've created over 125 new manufacturing jobs. I've brought over $40 million in federal grants. We've been instrumental in doing that to our community. What needs to be changed? I'm promoting high-speed rail between San Antonio and El Paso. It's an equal culture train ride. I'm promoting to nationalize Big Bend National Park once and for all. Those are not my ideas. They were Obama's ideas. They were Eisenhower ideas. High-speed rails, that's not my idea. We've been at it for 40 years. Why is it that a third world country now has the fastest train in the world and in this continent and we don't?
Thank you, Santos. Katie.
Thank you. I'm a firm believer that the only way we're going to get through this and the only way we're going to make a better country is together. Together, we have a large voice, we have a large power, and we have been told that we don't. We have been made to feel like there's nothing we can do, that the government is going to do what the government is going to do. The government is not there without the people. It needs the people, and it needs their voices. The problem isn't that we can't give our citizens what they need, right? Which is healthcare, affordability, groceries, the ability to be able to go out and provide for their family. The reason we can't have those things is because it's not a priority for those that are in Washington. The reason we can't have those things is because we will never be able to satiate the hunger of these corporations when billions and billions of dollars is not enough. And so we need leaders that are going to look to people that want to work with people, that are there for the heart of all people. And together we will be able to turn this around, change this country, help each other, and make it through this. I agree with Bruce. I think that these are some dark times, but I think that our best days are ahead of us. They're not behind us. And I hope, and I really, really hope that we will be able to restore exactly the vision that we had for this country for the generation that comes after us. This is not a country that we inherit. This is a country that we give to our children. So we need to build something that they are able to aspire to and that they are able to meet their full potential so that we can continue to be a powerhouse in the world. Thank you.
All righty, folks, we're coming to a close fast. This is the last circle, y'all, before some audience Q&A. 1 minute each, everyone. And reminder, if you haven't already, this is just a free tidbit of advice. Make sure you ask for all these folks, their vote of confidence on this last moment. With your closing thoughts, also please tell us where we can find more about you. Bruce, closing thoughts?
I want to thank the organizers here for all of your hard work. I especially want to thank you for doing this in Alpine. Those of us who remember, Pico Ajo is from Alpine, and the road to victory in November is also through Alpine and through the rural counties that form the heart of our district, where, as you pointed out, incomes are lower, poverty is higher, and prices are unbelievable. If we work together to give our message to the counties, to voters in the counties where the Republicans win by default, we can paint Texas 23 a dark blue in November.
Santos, closing thoughts.
I've been living in this district for over 50 years as a former Southern Pacific employee, as a former Union Pacific employee, now an entrepreneur with employees in Eagle Pass, Texas, and employees in Fabian, Texas, and employees in San Antonio. Everything that I've done throughout my lifetime has been for the better good of the people. I come from very humble beginnings, and I ask you for your vote once again. Santo Limon for United States Congress.
Kitty.
I want to thank everyone for taking the time to come out here today. I think it says a lot about our democracy when people participate in any form that they can, whether it be media or here in person, because we need that energy to be able to go into this election. The 4 candidates sitting here today are pretty much aligned with what your beliefs are, I'm sure, but that's why you're here. It's going to be hard to pick a candidate when everyone here, just as Jasmine Crockett said, when if you watched her video earlier, it's going to give you a better option than what you have right now. Okay? It's going to be better. And I think that the spirit that the Democrats need to take forward in this election is we're putting everything behind whoever gets the nomination. Something that Gretel and I have talked about at length, that whoever wins, we are putting all of our support around that person, because it's not myself as the candidate, right? It's the people, and it's the people trying to get elected so that they can represent you. And however we can do that, I am here to listen. I am here for your advice. I am here for your support. I believe that I am the best qualified to be able to do that, given my law background, given my proximity to the affordability issue with young families, and I am humbly asking for your vote.
Gretel, please close us out.
Thank you. Thank you so much. The last thing I said pretty much summed up how I want to work and how I want to represent us. But I will also echo what Katie said. I stand behind whoever you choose. And any one of us, not only will I support you and endorse you, I will work and I will canvass. And so I feel that strongly that we need to do this and we need to do this together. I like what I'm doing. I like what I'm talking about. I feel like I'm the strongest candidate, but that's for you to decide. And I would invite you to go to my website. It's gretelforcongress.com. I've got a bunch of videos. You can learn a little bit more about a lot of these policies that I'm interested in. But I really thank us all. I do think we have 4 strong candidates. What you can do, anything that you can do to get people out to vote, to get people interested in this process, and share hope with everybody that we can do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Gretel, Bruce, Santos, and Katie. We wish each of you the best of luck, but more so courage in this race to meet people where they are and bring access, affordability, compassion, and hope back to Texas 23. Audience, let's give them a big round of applause.